try to. I get a little sidetracked. But let's go back. I had a very successful IT career, and I worked in a lot of hours, and I raced, and I wrote, and I went to school. I'd had a very extremely active life. And I started slowing down little by little, and I started noticing my energy was just getting zapped a little bit more often than normal. I noticed I wasn't bouncing back as quickly. I noticed my strength. I was getting weaker and weaker, and it's just like it seemed really odd and out of place. And my focus started going, and just little by little, I was slipping. And only the people that knew me best could kind of see something was different. Then, my husband and I, we had a great life. We have an amazing son, and we we had this dream house, and we were going to build another house up on the hill. I was getting ready to run the Iron Dog again, and all of a sudden, one morning, I couldn't get out of bed. My back just completely gave out. It completely gave out. And I went in, I ended up having 8 herniated discs, degenerative disc disease, sciatica, I mean, the nightmare went on and on and on. So I had like over 9 back surgeries. Um, One of the doctors, Dr. Miller up here in Alaska, ended up tearing my dura and causing my spinal fluid to leak. And I ended up having near-death experiences during that. And that was like the first of that journey, and that was terrifying. And then there was a lot of audio and visual hallucinations that came along with it, which was really scary for someone who is, very logic and science bound. Anyhow, then my career, in IT, I had run software departments. I had done so many different things in IT. I'm not even going to go through the list, but I was a disaster recovery expert, and I was working on a lot of major projects when it happened. And so it was just, I always bounce back. So I still have it in my mind that this is all just going to go away, and one day I'm going to wake up and this nightmare is going to be over. But it's been lasting for well over 10 years. So it's a little persistent. Anyhow, um, as the disability progressed and progressed, it was like something, there was something more underlying, it seemed like, because it just, no matter how hard I tried, it kept getting worse. Well, we decided to sell our house, our dream house, one of our beautiful house that we had. It was like a Partridge family house, basically. It was a custom house. Oh, it was gorgeous. I loved it. And we became debt free, moved out into the cabin that we had, out, far removed from the city, and went into a simpler lifestyle. And during that time, I just started getting worse and worse and worse. And it was getting to the point where it was just I mean, it's hard physically to get up and move around and I hurt all the time. Like the pain never goes away. Um, and there's just some days that I can, get up and try and make the best of it, but there's just most days that I can't. I can't. I can't get up. The weight on my lower lumbar just, I can't do it. I can't. Until you experience it, you won't understand. And I was one of those kind of people that, was like, oh, get over yourself and suck it up and walk it off. Well, trust me, you can't suck it up and walk it off when it's this bad. And that has been a really, really hard lesson for me to learn during all of this as well, is a lot of the crow pie I'm having to eat because I endured a lot of pain with pancreatitis since a child, and they didn't even know, what was causing it. So to me, it was like I could always suck up the pain and manage to get through it somehow. So I figured, everybody should be able to do that. Well, now that I'm in this situation, it opens my eyes to a whole different reality. I'm sorry, I've got a lot of mosquito bites. Anyhow, the as we were wintering out at the cabin, it was just getting harder and harder and harder for me to even do anything. And then as Thanksgiving rolled around, I just started not feeling really well. And so we figured it was my pancreas acting up. And then by Christmas, I was throwing up every day. And I figured it was my pancreas, and because that's a normal thing with that, with pancreatitis. And so, I just kept trying to do the best I could do with it. And day after day after day after day after day of dealing with it, and just every time I ate, I couldn't keep anything. I mean, it was just getting really bad. So we decided that maybe going to Fiji and going, somewhere warm and being in an environment where, I could have healthy food and warmth and try a different, um, natural medicinal treatment. And so my husband and my son went down there to prepare the house for me. And because I've got a stimulator in my back, so I have to charge that. So I need power. There's a lot of things that, creature comforts that I basically have to have. And so they were getting all of that set up. So they went, a few weeks ahead of me. And so I planned on my sister and I going down together, and she was going to travel with me because I couldn't travel alone. I could barely I could barely talk. I mean, it I was decreasing daily, and it was just I was becoming so gaunt and green. I was literally turning green. Anyhow, so by the time my sister and I left, I had to, in order for me to go anywhere, it is so difficult for me to travel because of all the pain and because of my back. And so we flew to Hawaii and took a layover in Hawaii and then flew down to Fiji from Hawaii, out of Alaska. We went Alaska to Hawaii, Hawaii to Fiji. And that's the way I had to break it up. And we got to Fiji and we were making the best of it that we could. And I call it my weekend at Bernie's trip because basically they were carrying around a dead person. I could barely function. I was continually throwing up, like nonstop at that point. I was just nonstop throwing up. And so, by the time we got to Blue Lagoon, where I had planned on meeting up with my husband and my son. And we met up there, and the look on my husband and my son's face said it all. I hadn't realized how bad I had gotten and how much weight I had lost. And when they saw me, they just were shocked, absolutely shocked. And I had to be carried around everywhere. Again, I was throwing up constantly. I couldn't keep any food in me. I was fading in and out of consciousness constantly. And I was having a lot of near-death experiences and not really sure what was going on. I was really out of it. Um, Anyhow, so we finished the trip, and, you know, by that point, my husband was like, I am getting you out of here. We're not taking the ferry back. You're in bad shape. And he ended up getting a chartered flight, flew us out. We got to the main island, and I just kept convincing him that I was getting better and better. And I had tried some tincture on the island and was, hopeful. Anyhow, we had some people come and pray over me, and we were doing everything. I mean, literally everything you could think of, homeopathic wise, to, help me, because we had tried everything with the doctors and nothing had worked. And so one night it had gotten really bad, and I was having a hard time breathing, and so it was even hard to talk because I couldn't breathe hardly. And so one night I woke up and just was in full panic, and I was hurting really bad, and I couldn't breathe, and I just started freaking out on my husband. And so he just scooped me up and was like, "That's it, we're going to the hospital right now." And he scooped me up and took me into the hospital in Fiji. We got to the hospital, and they took one look at me, went to go draw my blood, and said, "Nope, you're going in an ambulance. You've got to go to the main hospital." So that was my first time in an ambulance, was in another country, in Fiji. And so I got in the ambulance. I barely remember this. And I do remember, though, driving and, and fading in and out, but looking out the window and thinking, this is my first ambulance ride, and it's in Fiji. And I just remember just being kind of like in awe of that for some reason. Anyhow, we got into the hospital, and that is a nightmare story all on its own. I'll save that story for another time. But I was out of it. I was so out of it. The lady asked me what religion I was, and I didn't. I still remember this. I remember being confused by what religion meant. I had no idea what that word even meant. It was so, like, I was so lost. That's how lost I was. I was so lost. Anyhow, the doctors came over, started pumping me full of, took my blood, and then immediately started giving me blood. And apparently I was down to two hemoglobins. That is unheard of. I am a walking, talking miracle, seriously. Like, they had no idea how I was even alive at that point. I had two hemoglobins. And so, they worked diligently to get blood, give me. I had so many blood transfusions. I don't even know how many blood transfusions I had. Literally, I do not know. I came to at one point, my husband was at the side of my bed praying, which was a sight for me to see, and it was startling. And I thought, oh boy, this is serious. It's serious. This is beyond my back. This is beyond my pancreas. Something's up. And the word was I had cancer. And I kind of figured it was my pancreas. And so they were telling me, no, it wasn't my pancreas. It was something more serious. And and I just figured they didn't know what they were talking about. When you consider the conditions of the hospital, you would understand why. Anyhow, by the time more blood got into me, I became, was becoming more alert and looking around, and oh my God, it was horrifying. Horrifying. And so I got to the point where um, the blood transfusions, one of the nurses came in, she was going to give me blood, and it was the wrong blood type, and I just flipped out. And I just was like, get me out of here. I'm not doing this. I'm going to get out. And they were telling me I couldn't leave. And I told them, look, I'm an iron dogger. I will tear this place apart. Trust me, I will get out of here. And so after not too much more debate after that, the papers came, I signed them, and I got out of there. And across the street was a different hospital. And so my husband was not happy with what I was doing. And so he was ready to take me back to America. And I am extremely stubborn. That is an understatement of the year, really. It is. And so I was just insistent on making it out to our house on the island. And so I was like, "No, we're going to the island. I'm going to see our house. I'm going to get out there. It's going to be fine. I feel better. Look, I feel great." And I kept trying to convince him that I was fine, and that I just, needed some blood transfusions. He wasn't buying it. So I convinced him that, okay, let's go to the other hospital, the private hospital, and we'll go get some blood work done and then just see what they say. So he was okay with that. We went to the hospital, got my blood work drawn, and then we came back, and then the call came. And it was no results over the phone. We needed to come in. And we needed to speak with specialists. So, I was like, oh, it's just my pancreas. Again, I've had so many problems with my pancreas. Trust me, I've tested positive for cancer plenty of times. It's just been a nightmare. So I just assumed that's what was happening all over again. So we got there, and two of their best oncologists were there, and they met with us, and that place was clean. It was nice. The staff were very well trained. They were good. They were on top of things there. Now, had I been brought into that place originally, things may have gone completely different. Anyhow, so they told me, I have leukemia, or I have cancer, and it looks like leukemia, and that this was serious, and that was not something they could treat there in Fiji, and I needed to get back to America ASAP. And they contacted the embassy right then. Like, the doctors were calling the embassy right then because I was insistent on going to the island. And they said, no, you need to, you're going to need another blood transfusion soon. So you need to get somewhere where you can start treatment immediately. And this is not a joke. This is not something that you can let go any longer. Like, this is serious. And I just was not comprehending the seriousness of it. My husband, on the other hand, was becoming quite frustrated with me. And so he put his foot down and said, no, we're leaving. We're going to Portland. His family lives in Eugene, which is in Oregon. And sure enough, next thing we know, we were on a flight. As soon as we got to the hospital, they basically quarantined me at the hospital to make sure I wasn't, not at the hospital, at the airport, to make sure I wasn't getting on a plane and going to the island, that I was in fact going back to America. And so my husband got first class tickets out, and that, we had to take the same route to Hawaii and then, back out because of my back. I just can't. My back is horrible. So anyhow, we got to Oregon, and I was very hesitant to go in, and so I hemmed and hawed for a couple days, and he just said, "No, you're going now," again, and scooped me up, and off we went. And sure enough, they kept me, and that's when they told me I had leukemia and what that meant. And hearing you have cancer is, oh, wow. Any images that you have in your head of like, oh, this is, oh, if I had cancer, I'd do this. If I had cancer, I'd do this. If it was me, pfft, oh, if it was me. Well, it was me. Holy crap. All I could think of was my son and my family and my friends, which is, I'm Italian, so they're family. Anyhow, it was a, whew, it still is. It's hard because it doesn't go away. I have leukemia. I have to have my blood checked all the time because it can come back at any moment. Anyhow, so when you find out you have leukemia, and I had AML and CMML, two forms of the horrible versions. The expectancy rate is not high. The fact that I'm still here is, again, a walking, talking miracle. So, after all those near death experiences, I do have a clue of what I'm here for, but it gets difficult. Anyhow, leukemia is a blood cancer, so it doesn't go away. They don't have a cure for it. Um, I get my blood checked. It was, all the time. And, I had to, anyhow, I'm skipping all over the place, sorry, but I had to have immediately go into chemotherapy because AML is deadly. Leukemia is deadly as it is, but AML is very deadly. And so I had to go into chemotherapy immediately and intense chemotherapy in-house. So the my first induction chemotherapy was 6 weeks at OHSU in Portland, which is a great facility. I would highly recommend that to anybody that has leukemia or has a family member. Go there. They know what they're doing, and any type of cancer, go there because they have it. They're cancer doctors. They focus on those types of cancer. So my oncologist, that's all she dealt with was leukemia. That's it. So she knew leukemia inside and out. She's one of the top research doctors in the field, and they pour a lot of money and time and effort into trying to cure cancer. That is one of their top goals, is curing cancer. And so OHSU is an excellent facility. Their staff there is highly trained, and they're just exceptional. I cannot say enough great things about them. So my induction chemotherapy was 6 weeks. There again, I was really loopy, and so while I was in there, I was talking to my doctor and asked, if I would be able to go and see Pink in concert. And she was in concert after, when I was supposed to get out of my induction chemo. And my doctor was like, "Yeah, you should be out by then. And if, as long as you, social distance and wear a mask, you should be able to go." I was so excited. I was so excited. So I bought 4 tickets for the show and invited friends. And, oh my gosh, I was so excited. Well, things happened and they couldn't go. So my dad, my husband, and my son went with me, which, they were not that, if you would have asked them, if they were going to choose to go to a Pink concert, that would not have been high on their list. But because of me, they went, and we ended up having a fabulous time. And I am telling you, that woman can put on a show. I was bald as could be. And I literally walked out of the hospital and went to the Pink concert, pretty much. And by the time we got there, I had an injection of this, I can't remember what it was called, neurolot, anyhow, and it hit me like a Mack truck during the concert. And by the time I was just melting in the concert, and just, I was hurting so bad I could barely lift my eyes, and but Pink was flying around and doing amazing acrobatics and singing all my favorite songs, and it was just so awesome. It was a great memory. It really was. And I'm so glad that my guys were there with me. Recovery after that, and I had a lot of time in the hospital. My dad never left my side. He stayed in the hospital with me the entire time. My husband and my son, we have a commercial fishing business in Alaska, excuse me, out in Bristol Bay. And so they they have to go out there. That's part of our livelihood. And so they had to go to Bristol Bay and leave me having chemo. They had no idea what was going to happen. They didn't know if I was going to make it. No one knew. It was it was a miracle I was alive as it is. So here, they just had to disconnect and go work. And so my dad and I made the best of it that we could. I was staying at my in-laws during that time, which they are a very, very loving family, and she kept that house immaculate, spotless, because I could not have any germs. They normally see their grandkids all the time, and I couldn't be around kids, so they ended up having to give up a lot of their life to have me there. And, as with anything, it can get wearisome after some time. And so there was a lot of confusion, and they didn't really know me. They still really don't know me that well. um so it was just, you know um it's really hard to describe being in a place where you don't know. It's an unfamiliar place, unfamiliar territory, and you really don't know anybody around you. So I really clung to my dad with all I had. And so, I tend to vent a lot, and so, it can be exhausting for whoever is having to take care of me. But he hung in like a champ, as always. And so, we got through it, and I made it through the chemotherapy, and it was 6 months of intense chemotherapy. And 2 years of being diagnosed with AML and CMML, the two forms of leukemia. And I'm still kicking. Um, I'm now on, I get my blood drawn every 3 months now. So we're making progress. Um, I just, I'm an iron dogger, so I refuse to give up. I will not go down without a fight. So, but that's my leukemia story so far, like in a nutshell. There's a lot more details to what having leukemia is like. And as you can see, like my coloring is off a lot of times. I got dark circles in my eyes. I have, I'm bedridden a lot. Come to find out, a lot of my back problems were because of having leukemia. They can tell how long you've had leukemia because you have to have bone marrow um, biopsies. So they drill into your bone marrow, like so they drill into my hip bone to take the bone marrow sample out to find out, how far along the leukemia is. That's how. The only way they know what kind of leukemia you have and what's going on is to do that bone marrow sample, and it does hurt. They when they find out, they get an indication that you have leukemia because your white blood cell count is through the roof, and that's, usually an indication something's wrong. And that's how they know to start checking for cancer, and then what kind of cancer. And that's, those are kind of the steps that happen. And so don't be afraid of the treatment. I know chemotherapy sounds terrible, and you really don't want to put those toxins in your body. Yet the alternative you know, is going into his senior year. This is something I want to see. I want to be a part of this stuff. I want to be a part of our life, and there's still a lot more I have to give and I want to do and experience. And so this isn't it for me. you know don't give up. That if there's anything I can leave with you is don't give up. Don't give up. You're here for a reason. We're all here for a reason. Everybody's special. No one's more special than anybody else. We're all just unique as we can be, for a reason. Sorry this was really emotional, but cancer is emotional. It's terrifying. Tomorrow will bring. No one is guaranteed tomorrow. That's a given. But with leukemia, it's in your face. It's not if the cancer is going to come back, it's when is it going to come back. That's the reality that leukemia patients deal with. And so I hope this is helpful. I'm going to try and document my life as much as possible with leukemia and keep people informed with what this is like. And I know there wasn't a lot of information out there when I had it. So hopefully this will inspire you to do it. Keep going. Try the treatments. You never know. You never know. Look, I mean, all my hair's like it's a mess right now, but I'm bedridden. But look at that. Like, look at that. I was bald. I kid you not. I was bald as a Q-tip. So, yeah, I will tell a lot more of my leukemia story, but that's how I was diagnosed in a nutshell. So, take care. I really hope that this helps someone, even if it helps one person. That's one more person than not. Take care. Ciao.